Hi, everybody, and welcome to the RHAP Apple B&Bs. That's right, it's a corporate takeover. I'm a shill, and I'm also Mike Bloom, here to break down an episode. We were eating good this week in the neighborhood and beyond as we are talking about episode 10 of Survivor 46. I mean, indescribable would be the way to describe it. We have certainly a lot to get into, mainly around the reward herd around the world. But of course, let me welcome in our illustrious panel, who I will gladly bring along with me. No shunning of our panel today. First off, I would call her the exact opposite of a hoe bag, which I guess is like a chaste satchel, Liana Boris.
That's almost more of an insult somehow to me. I don't know. I don't know why a satchel is the opposite of a bag. They feel very synonymous in my mind. So maybe you can workshop that a bit. But my impression of the season feels like it made a bet that it needs to one up itself each episode. And somehow it's continuing to happen with one of the most interesting interactions that I've seen on Survivor in a while. So I have been looking forward to this all week.
Interesting is a great way to put it, because I can't really make heads or tails as to how I feel about it, but maybe it'll be better defined by our guest. And I am so excited, not only because I love bringing this guy on, he's one of my favorite podcasters out there, but the very first time he came onto our podcast back in Survivor 41, he had said that one of his favorite funny parts in Survivor history was when everyone was losing their shit over the idea of having Applebee's as a reward, and how we have come so full circle over the course of 2.5 years. So elated to welcome back for yet another Applebee's related incident, the great Justin McElroy.
I'm pissed! I see you guys eating every day! Hi everyone, Justin McElroy here. What a pleasure it is to be here.
I love the impression you did, obviously, from a noise perspective, but on video, it does look like someone just left the camera on the ground while Liz was doing her monologue and just missed out on the entire thing.
Yeah, I didn't want to blow out anybody's headphones.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for having me back on this podcast. It is such a relief to be able to vent my whatever gland stores things I want to say about Survivor, to be able to flush those toxins from my body.
Listen, Jeff Probst said this week, right, there's no shame in expressing what your emotions might be. So look, if we have to meet Liz at the tan that she is with our fervor and emotional excitement, so be it. But Justin, a little bit behind the scenes info, you had reached out to me basically being like, I gotta talk about this season. So talk to me about that. What led you to make that reach out?
It's just the knowledge that you're living through an all-timer and just wanting to get, I mean, I've been like evangelical about Survivor this season in a way where I've told people, like, even if you've never watched this show in your life, you need to watch the most demented cast of people I've ever seen. Like, and what's great about this season is from the very first episode, everyone is like, wow, okay, never seen that before. Woo, that's a heck of a thing. I mean, you had a guy, I think Q a couple episodes ago, in a sense, like, did you get the sense that he broke Survivor? Like Survivor, you watched Survivor break, where everyone was like, it's the equivalent of playing Risk and like flipping the whole world map. It's like, well, man, I don't really know if he wants to go home. I mean, that's not really, we don't really have a protocol for that. And I feel like the game has continued to be in the shadow of that. It was already all-timer before that, but like in the shadow of that, I feel like Q has occupied this weird space where it's like, I have you cannot predict what this human being will do. He just proved it. He just shoved all of his chips across the table and no one took him up on it. He was just like, well, I guess I'll take the chips back, I guess.
Well, not only that, now they're saying, hey, we'll give you chips. Don't worry. Like, they might think that you're going to lose this hand, but I'm going to hand you cards underneath the table to actually keep you in the game over other people.
Yeah, it's been a very bizarre season of I say that about All-Timer, but I have, especially watching this season, or this episode rather, I do feel like as entertaining as these individual episodes are, I don't know how well, I'm starting to get the suspicion, I don't know how well it's all congealing together narratively. Because I really feel like with all the super chaotic play, it's almost gotten a little bit hard to, I feel like, get a sense. Like, it's hard to even be surprised because I don't even have a sense of how the wind is blowing a lot of the times. And like, that's the game for a lot of these people. I feel like they're living in that space, but it's like, I don't know. It's weird to see there's so much chaos. You almost don't get a sense of like, I mean, any sort of alignment or loyalty or any of those sorts of interactions. It's so cutthroat.
Well, that's the thing with subverting expectations is there have to be expectations in the first place. And this season is just completely thrown them out the window.
If you expect the messiest possible thing every week, it's like, well, yeah, there it is again.
Yes, exactly. We got it again. Now they're doing it in very different ways, which is why it seems to still be getting its head thrown all around. But like you said about Q, it was a very shell shock moment almost of we set up the way Survivor is, supposed to go. And you just have no idea. And it was the fans included. I still was thinking there's got to be strategy. There's got to be strategy behind it because who behaves that way? It's so out of the ordinary.
There's got to be a plan. And I think that you saw it's interesting in this. I'm sorry if we're just. Do y'all have I feel like I'm just babbling.
Dude, dive in. This is all you.
I don't know. I feel like you have seen. And again, if I'm echoing things you all have already talked about it this season, I apologize, but I feel like you have seen a real like overextension towards like jury concern and like voting concern. Like when you saw in this moment, Kenzie talking about like her having to eliminate her number one, and that's like such a big step on your path towards like winning Survivor. It's like, is it? I mean, is it? Because I feel like maybe people kind of like playing together usually get a little bit farther rather than cutting out your number one best ally. What, 6, 7, eighth? I mean, that's
she nearly cut her out 9th. She nearly cut her out last week.
Yeah. It's weird. I feel like everyone is getting like so far ahead of themselves. I feel like the people are starting to like count numbers on juries so early, like before they've gotten anywhere near the jury. Like they're like putting the cart so far before the horse.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, the odd phenomenon about it is that when everyone is playing this weirdly, it sort of becomes normal to them in that it only makes sense. They're like, well, we just saw that Tevin flipped on Soda and Liz flipped on Tevin and Q flipped on Tiffany. So I guess I have to keep doing this because that's what people do this season. When, in any other season of Survivor, we look at this as like one person doing this one time, not half the cast doing it to their number ones at some part. But then again, to Liana's point, take that decision and then go the oddest route where Kenzie relents on the decision this round. She's like, I don't think it's the time. And Maria's like, all I heard was vote Tiffany out. So I think I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it could end up working in her favor, right? For Kenzie. Like, that's the thing, is that we just don't have a sense of what the jury's thinking and how this is ultimately going to play out, because obviously they have their own perceptions of how they feel the jury is going to think of their game when they get to the end, in sort of the weirdest keeping up with the Joneses of voting out your closest ally. But who knows, right? Like, that might not end up being the criteria that the jury ends up using. And we don't really have a sense of that, of what moves are truly being credited. And so I think that also makes it quite difficult to decide like who's actually playing well. Like, is anyone playing well? I don't know.
I will say I felt like this, I don't love I feel like the flip-flopping back and forth on Tiff is kind of like worst of both worlds. So I think that's kind of rough. I do feel like now that Kenzie has dropped some of I do think you're seeing her evolve pretty quickly as a player in these late stages. I find her a lot more interesting to watch now that she's stopped trying to put up the appearance that she is everybody's friend. Like everybody is her pal. I feel like as much as I like that play early where you're trying to like, keep a bunch of mini alliances together, I feel like with now that she is having to like scrap a bit more to keep her place, and less able to float, I think that she is a lot more interesting to watch, and has proven herself to at least have a plan some of the time, which a lot of these people don't seem to.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, though, the people I have to give massive kudos to, and the people who I think are behind the biggest move of the season, are Maria and Charlie. Maria is the one that really gets a lot of the narrative focus in this episode. She comes in being like, yeah, come here, Q. I know nobody else likes you, but I do. And the fact is, from our perspective, she was the one to bring together Q and the woman who vociferously tore into him a day ago
Yeah.
to actually vote together to save him, like, absolutely remarkable. I will include Charlie in on this because they seem to be in lockstep. He was committed to the Tiffany plan. And then also, apparently, according to, I got the chance to, of course, talk with Tiffany and we'll parse out some tidbits throughout. Apparently, the reason Tiffany didn't play her idol is because Charlie had convinced her, hey, don't play it. We'll get rid of Q this round. And then next time we'll use it to take out Maria. And so I don't know if Charlie is going to, do that in the next episode anyway. But it seems like, at least my read is, he had her properly snowed to not have her play her idol so they could actually vote her out with it. Despite the fact that a day ago she told him, nope, I'm playing this. You're never going to get me to not play this.
I feel like there have been some gaps with both Hunter and Tiffany in the edit to help me understand why they wouldn't, because it seems so out of left field, especially with Hunter. My dude was saying it like, I'm playing it. I'm like, good, Hunter, you're gonna need to. And then he just gets eliminated with it in his pockets. Like, what? There's no reality. Like, I think that's again playing for the jury rather than playing for the week, right? Like, if I can hold this on for 2 more weeks, I think that's also a side effect of not really having alliances or loyalty to speak of. Like, people are really just trying to like do whatever it takes to get by, week by week. And I think it's wild, especially in this season. Just play it. I mean, I don't know.
No, I agree. And that's the thing that we didn't see is because sometimes we'll get this. Obviously, the editors want to keep up the suspense of, oh, will he, won't he? Like, is he gonna go home or not? But we'll get a confessional that's, okay, so I have my idol. I'm thinking of playing it, but blah, blah, blah. Or at least something that sets up the decision point for the person who has the idol. And I feel like in both of these cases, both for Tiffany and Hunter, we never got that really. It was just, oh, I have the idol, I'm gonna play it, not the will they, won't they. It was more the will they, won't they, especially in this episode about Liz flipping. That seemed to be more the concern, which then it does feel a little empty when you don't know why Tiffany didn't play her idol.
It's interesting because, Liana, you point out just like all of the odd expectations that we have going into this episode and them almost always being subverted, because it is also wild to me how incredibly similar these circumstances were between the two people that we're talking about, that Jeff actually needed him in lampshaded. He builds the whole freaking lamp. And he says, hey, Tiffany, remind me if you heard this before. Here comes somebody coming in who has an idol, who says they're going to play an idol where the information is public. And everyone said it was Q, and it wasn't Q. Does that sound familiar to you? And Tiffany's like, yes, but this time it'll work for me. Don't you worry. How do you not expect that result to happen?
It's baffling to me. I mean, honestly, unless some of these people are like all-timers, like unless they're like all-time manipulators, but like if that is the case, you would expect some level of coherence from the play, right? Like unless someone's like master level pulling this, this is all my plan. I anticipated Q trying to quit Survivor.
Well, that's the wild thing, is that, again, from what we're being shown, these people might be some of like the best outright liars at Tribal Council I have ever seen. Where you have Liz explicitly saying, I'm never going to work with Q again. When you have Ben being like, yep, I'm done with him. When Jeff asks, can anyone work with Q? We have 3 people who 2 of which end up voting with Q to keep Q, are shaking their heads. I don't know if this is the case with previous seasons, and I either don't remember it or it wasn't shown, but it felt like, honestly, since like maybe the gem vote, we have had these wild tribal councils on one level, but even on another level, these people are just selling so much bullshit to the person whose throat they're about to cut.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them that much for sometimes like taking it at face value.
Survivor. You got a lot of people's faces, right? It's part of the deal. I think it does also reveal a little bit of a flaw with I feel like too much time maybe is being spent on storylines about advantages and idols and like weird side challenges and all that kind of stuff, where if you look, I feel like most of those, like how much screen time was spent finding idols that didn't get used at all, you know, like how many, like I wonder if we would have a better sense of everyone's motivation if earlier in the season we were like learning more about people and their interactions and their relationships versus like some bogus, you know, there will be an idol here when you lose, so come back later for it. Like, I wonder if maybe a little bit more of the human interaction earlier would make some of these motivations a little bit more clear, or if you'd have more of a sense of who some of, like, I still don't feel like I have a great read on Maria. Like, I don't feel like I mean, she's coming into it, but she hasn't had much time, I feel like, leading up to it, but I don't know.
Yeah, Maria's really interesting because although she's shown in this episode to really be the one that's driving the move, it still doesn't feel like she's getting a ton of storyline behind it or credit or motivation. It almost just feels like the bare minimum that was necessary to explain why this move happened. Like
maybe she's a less compelling screen presence than some of the other people, and so she's getting a little bit of a bum edit as a result. I mean, not like she's flat, but you have some of these people that are just going buck wild every week.
That's the thing, is like, it's tough. And then even like by comparison with her closest ally, Charlie, I could see a world where they feel like Charlie has zingers, you know, but against that point, I thought Maria's confessional this week about running the red light was like pretty damn badass. So it's not like she was cast on the show for a reason. She certainly is not without character. Listen, we have been putting this massive cart before the horse right now. We gotta talk about this Applebee's meltdown. Holy moly. Good Lord. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen something to this magnitude on reality television, let alone Survivor.
No, but I live in West Virginia, so I have seen something of this magnitude at an Applebee's. Long waits on Sunday, you know, that sort of thing. But no, not on Survivor that I can recall. I think this is as full bore as I've seen anyone get on Survivor.
Right. And certainly Survivor for sure. I think like this type of interaction is something that there were pieces that I know got cut with Maria or who volunteered? Kenzie.
So yeah, here's the thing. To think that this was an absolutely wild scene and that Q made this huge shrewd move in not inviting Liz, who hasn't been able to eat anything and has this weekly tradition with her daughter at Applebee's. It could have been a lot worse, because knowing, of course, the emotional attachment and nutritional attachment that Liz has to Applebee's, Kenzie and Maria.
Nutritional attachment.
It's a low bar. But Kenzie and Maria had both offered their spots, but Q said no. I believe the direct quote from Q was like, I picked who I picked. I don't want to bring Liz. We're going to Applebee's. And because it's he won the reward singularly. Like, I think technically through the legalese, he was the one that could dictate who does and who doesn't
at
go.
A certain point, like, I don't want to bring Liz after I already told Liz she can't have Applebee's. Liz is hard enough to deal with as it is. Not like, it's your second choice for Applebee's, like fourth choice for Applebee's.
Oh my God.
But that's not, this is what I'm talking about, right? What is Q doing? And I don't mean like it's bad. I mean, like, what is Q doing? Like, I maybe trying to re-ingratiate himself. I mean, after him trying to commit seppuku a few weeks back, it's like, it's so hard to judge what any of the actions mean anymore. But like, why not try to at least a lot of these people aren't even making the effort to try to stay on folks' good side. And there's like not a lot of people left. And there's still people who are like just openly hostile to each other. It's like, wow, I hope you're looking for an idol, pal, because you are not a delight to be around.
Well, I think that's the thing is there's sort of a general expectation of if you're in that situation as human beings, like collectively we would agree like, oh, this is a person in suffering. Like, let me do something nice for them. And Q is just like, absolutely not.
No.
The mic drop moment of him being like, well, you voted for me. So
Yeah, which he responds to like her self-admitted histrionics of her screaming in his face. And look, he talks all throughout this episode about like I've fired people in the past, and seems like he's just got a cold attitude towards it all. Absolute stone face, like, yeah, but you wrote my name down twice. So like what good or do you have to pay to me? And this is interesting because listen, I've certainly seen a lot of back and forth the past 5 days or so about like, oh my God, Q is evil. Why would he do this? Oh, Liz, she's so entitled. Why does she think that she should get asked to do it? To be a little bit fancy fencerton, I do see both sides here. We're like, Liz, it sucks for her. And she herself knew that like Q was never going to pick her, which I think is where that rage came from. But obviously, being at the end of her rope from a physical perspective and then like getting this sort of, for lack of a better term, taste of home kind of yanked out of her mouth at the last second must be tough. And she was just clearly letting out those bottled emotions in that moment. But also Q doesn't know her shit. As we're talking about, like, it'd be, I think, something 9 out of 10 people would do, just either to be like, quote unquote, a nice person or to say, hey, maybe this goodwill can work back at it. Q has put himself in such a unique position where he's like, nah, Liz is a dead vote. I gotta burn that. You know, it's a gangrenous limb. It needs to be chopped off, which is then ironic when the limb crawls back and ends up saving Q's life at the end of the episode.
It worked. Again, it worked.
See? Exactly. That was part of his strategy all
Yeah,
along.
Well, he said
all
to
part of the
tribal
plan.
council that it's his plan, which is wild. Like, I thought for a second that maybe any idea like could have been prospectively sunk if Liz, who remember was all about I want to have a move to take credit for, Q, you blew up my game. If Q decides in that moment, nope, it's actually my move. I thought there was a non-zero chance that Liz would flip back. She's like, no, screw you. No, this is my move. This is not your move. Stop trying to do that.
Yeah, it is weird that they have so little concern, not just for each other as human beings, but I think, but as like maybe at some point, it's so deliberately cruel in a way that he will not be able to walk. Not cruel. It is cruel through indifference. And it's so deliberately cruel that he can't walk it back. And like Kinsey wouldn't have expected him. Like, I don't even think Kinsey would have been upset. It's like, yeah, that figures. Yeah, we haven't been getting along great. Like, I don't know. It seems so needlessly punitive.
Yeah. I mean, Tiffany was like, okay, I was just yelling at you the day before, but if Q will show anything apparently in these 2 episodes, which is like, hey, if you scream at me all you want, I'm probably going to work with you the next day. In fact, it makes me more inclined to do so. Yeah,
I'm just going to create a random blood feud with this person real quick. How many left? 8? Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, that's also what it's just, and we as commentators, we want to try to understand and analyze what people's thought processes were. Why did they make this decision? And Q has just been such a blind spot for me from that moment where he said, vote me out, that just trying to understand, like, what do you stand to gain from saying this woman who is saying like, I will bet, what'd she say? I can't, I'm going to beg, I'm pissed, blah, blah, blah. So many things. And he's still just like, nah, I'm good. Thank you.
And then to top it all off, they go to the sanctuary where good things happen. And here comes the burger that Liz will spend the entire episode.
Nay, Mike season, if I had to guess.
Perhaps lasciviously describing. And they don't even touch it. I think I see Maria like poking at it briefly, but they're all so full that Liz's prized possession, they say, it's fine. We'll let it rot away.
I think they did that on purpose. Like, they brought it out last on purpose. They were like, we're going to make them fill up on everything else to get this, like, taking her burger dream away shot.
Oh, God. It's, from what I've heard through sources that, and just like watching the show, Hunter was catching a lot of fish.
Yeah.
And Liz can't make fires, and Tevin was making the fires. So from what I heard, Hunter was catching food for Liz, and then Tevin was building fires for Liz, and then Liz was like, there. And so after they were out, Liz didn't have any food sources anymore, and so I think some of the lack of pity maybe was derived from that, from Liz's inability to feed herself. I don't know. There's a lot of anger there on Q's behalf towards Liz that I didn't see coming.
Mm-hmm. The other thing too is we get the individual rice portion, because I think part of the discussion was also, well, how much is on production for, you take this woman who's allergic to everything on the island, you stick her on the island. Like, is that not a health risk in some perspective? So was this, we bring back the rice negotiations, and was this individual rice a way to mitigate like Liz's freaking out?
It was basically the jar should have had Liz written on it. It would have been a little bit more.
Just like, palatable. Come on, just Liz, label it appropriately.
I'm just gonna give this to you right now.
Here, Liz, eat this rice.
Talk to anybody else. You can sit here, eat this handful of dried rice as you sit out the challenge, because we all know what's going to happen here. I love that as well. That, like, of course, Jeff is trying to bring back the rice negotiation, and once again, these people are not even meeting him halfway. They're like, Liz can have it because she's dying and was deprived Applebee's, but we're fine. We're all pretty much good. I mean,
I will say this. I feel like and you are obviously much better students of the game than me, so hopefully you can fill in whatever I'm missing here. But I feel like food scarcity has been much more of a thing in recent years than when I was younger watching. I feel like it was just sort of assumed that like base needs, like there's enough rice for them to, they've only been eating rice, but there's enough rice, right? Like it didn't seem like the scarcity was as much of a thing. And I personally, as a viewer, I don't love watching people starve. Like, I don't get any entertainment out of knowing that not everybody has enough food. For starters, like, that is a real world situation that is like, I think it's weird to derive entertainment from. Also, like, I would rather see people who are like, at least have enough glucose in their brain to strategize and like physically compete in the challenges and do the things they need to do without worrying about like the food aspect of it. Because I don't know. I feel like I don't get a lot of joy from that part of it. I wish like it was just assumed that like there's enough rice. And so let's talk about let's move on to other things. That's just me, but I personally.
Yeah. So, I mean, the new era is all about this element that you are personally not a fan of, right? That like it's more dangerous than ever. You have to compete for it. I mean, I also think it's more at the forefront in this season, because this was the first time that they outwardly said no to the rice that was extended to them, not once, not twice, but thrice. And then on top of that, you do have someone like Liz who has the most dietary restrictions out of anybody in Survivor history. So I do think that like they have had issues in the past, but they've usually been given rice since the beginning, and they usually have like the fishing gear and these big tribes of people to be able to like take turns going out. I think it's just this odd maelstrom of the small tribes, and to your point, Liz perhaps voting out, sort of cutting off her own hands that would be feeding her, combined with also the lack of rice from this absolutely wild cast, also combined with Liz, who has just been probably eating like handfuls of sand for the better part of 12 days because there's not really much else to eat out there that she's not allergic to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thought that it was because of the 26-day season that they cut some of the rations, essentially to
increase the difficulty.
Yeah, to sort of try to somewhat time match for the two different. That was my understanding.
That makes sense. Actually, it makes a lot of sense.
That's true. But I'm with you, Justin. I also just feel like I want to see people that are going to do a good job strategizing, and something's really sad about it. In my mind, there's final challenges that stand out because you see people so depleted, like the Redemption Island, like one of those final challenges. It's just like they're so slow because they're just they haven't eaten, and that's just kind of sad. So it borderlines on like not an enjoyable experience.
Also, they're not going to let him die. So so there's no actual drama. It's all artificial, right? Because no one's going to die of starvation on Survivor. And like, if they had to leave, no one's ever left Survivor for hunger, right? Or no one's ever been like, I am new. I mean, maybe as a side effect, you could make that argument for some of these people. But like, I don't know, it just seems like a really artificial way of creating stakes where, there might be other more entertaining ways of doing it.
Well,
Applebee's steaks.
I was gonna say we missed
Now
out on
you're
something.
talking.
Well,
Yeah.
I agree with you both. All that is to say, like, Liz's reaction was pretty damn entertaining.
Oh, it was great. You kidding me?
It was incredible television. From the moment she stood there in stark silence, a moment suspended in time, as she was about to turn around and launch into probably the most I have ever seen someone scream at another person in my entire life, let alone in a television show. It was absolutely riveting from beginning to end.
It's also pretty rare for Survivor. I feel like usually when there's a challenge that has been set up, where a reward that's been set up to be really important to one person personally, I feel like they usually find a way to let you see the scene of that person enjoying the thing that they so desperately want to enjoy. Maybe it's like, okay, you can pick 3 people to go with you. You can pick 4 people to go. We're just trying to get this one person who I feel like there's not a lot of times where they set up like, wouldn't it be so cool if Liz got to eat?
Jeff literally
Applebee's?
said, in the beginning when Liz's like, it's my family tradition. Jeff's like, well, that would be great if you won this challenge.
I will say that I something else occurred to me while I was like watching the reward in the sanctuary. It does make you wonder if this is the exact image Applebee's wants, because I was watching thinking like, that was pretty good. Applebee's, I could go for, because it's been all staged, right? But the takeaway is these people who have not eaten anything are loving it. And it makes you wonder, like, aren't you worried about if you're starving to death, reach for Applebee's. It is better than starving to death on a remote island. It's like when Gulliver's Travels. It's like when Gulliver's Travels was at the movie. They've been watching cave paintings. They've been watching each other draw in the sand. Gulliver's Travels is an excellent movie in those situations.
Yeah, Survivor sponsorship really is the equivalent of any port in a storm. Of like, well, there's non-existence or there's Applebee's.
Right. A whole bag of Doritos? Yeah, absolutely. What's the alternative? Dying? Yeah, absolutely.
Look, maybe it's my simple little brain, but I don't even get that far. I'm like, yeah, Applebee's does sound really good. Like, I'm one of the people
there's
that's
no shade here. I do think I think it's a shame to offer Applebee's and not have a Blondie on hand. I would be a little sad about that, to go for the Oreo shake just because we're promoting it. Please, let's stick to the classics Applebee's. I want your A tier stuff. And also, folks, I don't know how to tell these contestants, but my heart was really honestly breaking for the winners, because it has taken years to prepare the American populace for cuisine like Applebee's. We had to be stair-stepped up to that level of intensity. Your body is not built to go from starvation to a Bourbon Street bacon cheeseburger. Jeff, are you insane? It's gonna ravage. They're gonna ravage those people. They're gonna be broken on the other end of that. I hope they're full, because that's the last pleasure they're gonna experience for quite some time.
That's the thing, is that like you both, again, understandably talk about, do we want to see people just lie catatonic, starving, unable to strategize? Do we also want people like lying next to a shit the size of their own body as they're just recoiling in pain from the gargantuan amount of Applebee's they gorged on at the sanctuary?
It's truly they must know. People break water fasts with strawberries. Like, you simply can't eat a full multi-course Applebee's meal 0 to 60 like that. You're not ready.
Oh my gosh. I mean, and exactly. They got, because of what? They got the starter plate. They got, and then alcohol, any alcohol on top of that.
2 Bourbon Street. Your body does not, people drinking alcohol on Survivor, I think, is one of the wildest things. Like, that's poison. And I drink it, love it over here. Huge fan, not on an island. It's poison you're putting into your body. Yep. You should not be doing that.
And that's the thing that people, besides Liz, were the most excited for. Like, Jeff's going down the menu, and everyone's
booze.
like, and he goes, and to top it all off, a blue cup of poison. Everyone's like,
not even regular. That would put me down now, because that's also like what a fourth cup of thank you a fourth cup of blue curacao. Like, it's like that's gonna be terrible. Forget it. No way.
Oh my gosh. And to be hit with that burst with nothing in your stomach.
Oh yeah, Liana, absolutely. I guarantee 30 minutes in, someone's like, guys, there's got to be karaoke around somewhere. Let's go. Forget the Applebee's. We got to live.
See, I would say that ordinarily that would be the moment where people are like, I just love you guys. You're my family. But this season, it's the exact opposite. Like, Q, just a reminder, I hate your guts. Why did you bring me here? I appreciate it. But just as a reminder, I can't stand you.
Maybe we did need Liz on the reward. Imagine that interaction. Oh.
So how did that remind me, because I've been looking for it, how did the final vote split out? Who is for who? Where are we at by the end of this?
The three that were left out were Tiffany, obviously, Kenzie, and Venus. So it was the three Segas, which was Maria and Charlie, and they brought in Ben by proxy. Obviously, Q was in on it because Maria wanted to protect Q, and Charlie had suggested that Liz was the vote to bring in over Venus. And so those were the five. Now, that being said, you talk about the current of the season at this point. I think it is as loose as the bowels of these contestants after ingesting the Applebee's. This is not going to be a 5, I think, that sticks together very long, especially with Liz and Q in the same group. Like, Maria, mazel to you for hurting these cats, but they're going to do what they're going to do and eventually escape next vote.
It'll be interesting to see how if Kenzie's big move, was going to be eliminating Tiffany. It'll be interesting to see how she regains some sort of appearance that she's like in any way sort of controlling things. I think Ben is in a rough position. I think Ben's too much of a sweetheart to make it to the final 3. I feel like if you let a Ben get to the final 3, he walks away with it. Q, I feel like, would be maybe the easiest person to beat in the history of Survivor. I mean, if you want to talk about a final 3 where you're like, well, he quit, so I should win. I mean, he basically quit.
Let's throw out, though, the doomsday scenario to end all doomsday scenarios. Q, Venus, and Liz in the final 3. Who wins?
Q is so unpredictable. Who knows? Like, maybe he just shows up and turns on his realtor energy and is just able to be like, this was what I was doing. It was a character, blah, 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 whatever. And maybe is somehow able to convince them. Like, Q is such an enigma to me when it comes to his motivations and his behaviors. Like, who knows? I feel like everybody just hates Venus. So unfortunately for her. And then Liz, big old question mark for me.
I mean, Liz started out, this hasn't been the narrative much lately, but Liz started out saying that she didn't need the money, that she was just doing this to, like, great strat, by the way, Liz, really humdinger. It will be interesting to see if that continues to be a factor. I also feel like it combines with her general, at least in the context of Survivor and these people's opinions, unlikability. I feel like she rubs a lot of people the wrong way by, well, a lot of the third person stuff and a lot of her sort of big personality. I feel like might be a tough vote. But yeah, nobody likes Venus either. Like, I don't know. It's weird. Charlie, I think, is in a good, if Charlie can keep, I feel like he's in a really good position as long as everyone else doesn't realize sort of what a good position he's in, because I feel like he's one of the few people that hasn't really pissed anybody off that bad. He really has held his own in challenges. I think the biggest risk Charlie's running right now is being seen as like a new hunter who we all need to get out at the first opportunity, because he's secretly been Batman in the cave training on all these challenges.
It really, his challenge record after that, like, first doghouse challenge was second, first.
Yeah.
Like, you got rid of Hunter, but you should have been worried about the person behind him in the form of Charlie. And that's the only reason, to your point, I could see him being targeted, is if these people, good Lord, they love big game hunting, even if it ends up putting the target on their own back. And if they're now looking to someone as Charlie as like, well, listen, if the field's getting smaller, I want to take out somebody that's like guaranteed to win a challenge over me. Let's take out Charlie now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're also seeing a lot of challenges these days that favor endurance over strength.
Mm,
Like a hunter, for example, like obviously a huge physical threat, but I think that if you somebody who's really strong versus somebody who can just endure like Charlie and the lower body weight, like it would be a huge, a huge help for somebody who has tried to cultivate that. I think he could fare really well, provided that everybody else doesn't sort of band together to eliminate him. But I feel like he's in a good position.
Hmm. Well, most of the time on Survivor, when you hear, oh, so and so dislikes this person, that can be a death warrant. But we're seeing here where Liz, who absolutely hates Q, is still willing to keep him in the game. And whether or not, okay, that strategic decision is going to outweigh her hate for him, or even Venus, who got a lot of flack, people ended up keeping her because, well, why would we get rid of her? So I'm curious to see, are those people ultimately going to get cut? Or are we going to see them manage to get their way to the end as these new targets keep popping up? Tiffany, maybe Maria, maybe Charlie. I don't know if they're going to get slotted into those next spots or if finally we have the time to take out the Qs and the Venuses of the world.
Has it worked too well, do you think? I mean, there was definitely in the new era, I think the biggest mandate, I think, is remove the episodes where you absolutely know, just run the numbers, like who's going. Like for
mm,
4 or 5 episodes, it's like, okay, I'll be this guy and then this guy and then this guy. I wonder if like the changes have gone too far in that direction to where things are so hard to predict that it's almost doesn't behoove you to try to have a cogent strategy. Like
mm.
it doesn't make sense to try to build long-term bonds or a long-term anything because there's so many sort of like monkey wrenches thrown in that it like doesn't make sense.
Yeah, or build a long-term bond with someone and then send them to the jury, because then you could say, "Oh yeah, we made this bond. Isn't that great? Please vote for me." I mean,
Yeah.
certainly, I do think that this is something we see a lot in Justin, one of your favorite televised products, Big Brother, where the idea of expecting the unexpected, and which is ironic given the fact that the new era now has this like very rigid structure of, oh, we're gonna do earn the merge here and the rice negotiation here. But I do certainly see from people's perspectives, if you don't know from a production perspective what's coming your way, the best thing to do is then to just kind of like not play at all, right? To like
Right.
stay the course, because for all you know, you could make this big plan and then it gets unraveled by something else. And that's why, again, I'll give a lot of kudos to this cast in that, like, due to the fact that no idols have been played so far, it kind of feels a little old or middle school Survivor in that way, and that it is more relying on these like interpersonal dynamics and the numbers. Like, I got so excited by this idea of a 5-3 vote because it felt like the first vote in a while in the post merge where we didn't like have a reliance on a shun in the dark or just having
Right.
a pylon vote onto somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I am done with Shot in the Dark. I would love for them to eliminate Shot in the Dark. And only because I feel like it gets so much discussion amongst the players, like, we got to be careful they don't play their Shot in the Dark. When like statistically, it's not gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
It's worked once or twice. It's not gonna work. And it's such a like wet fart of a moment when Jeff holds up. It's like not safe. It's like, yeah, I know it's a 5 out of 6 shit. Like, yeah, I know. Like and then people talk about it so, like it's a legitimate concern, and it's simply, if you knew you had a 5 out of 6 chance of a plan working, just do that plan. That's really good odds for Survivor. Like, you should not think about a 1 out of 6 chance of something happening.
And also, when you have a group like that, it's so easy to just throw a couple votes on someone else, right? Like
Yeah.
it's also very easy to get around. So
A little
yeah,
more
why
fat
are
to
we
trim away. Yeah.
giving it so much
Which is
attention?
again why these past couple of votes have been such an exception. Where usually the plan is, and we see that this even in like the big blind sides that have occurred post merge. I'm thinking, for instance, of like High's blind side in Survivor 42. Certainly came out of nowhere from his perspective, but everyone was on board and they threw like a vote onto Romeo just in case High played his shot in the dark. To Liana's point, that is like the most cohesive, simplest strategy to pursue. Here, when the numbers are feeling ticky-tack, and even Hunter last week had said that like the reason why he didn't play his shot in the dark is because he had this sort of assumption about a convoluted 5-4 vote that was happening, and he didn't want to throw his vote away and tie it up. I give, a lot of kudos to these players for being able to come up with these ridiculous scenarios where, yeah, it can be a 1 vote difference. And so as a result, they're poo-pooing the shot in the dark like they do all these race negotiations as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it also, I wonder, seeing how many of these tribals have come down to the actual tribal, it makes me wonder if some of the complaints that we've been sort of talking about are that the game is moving so fast that you just don't have the material to edit a storyline together, like to make it narratively compelling, because it's shifting that fast, which, like, judging by the fact that a lot of it seems to be happening, out there in the restaurant, but rather than back in the kitchen, it makes you wonder if that's the case, where it's just like shifting so fast that it's hard to edit a story around it.
That's interesting. Yeah, it is sort of like if another Survivor season is like Hell's Kitchen, where like all the drama occurs in the kitchen in the lead up to Tribal Council. This season is like, I don't know, Top Chef Restaurant Wars, where like, oh no, there's an issue in the front of house. The waiters aren't being trained. This person got the wrong order, or their food's cold, where there's so much happening out front when that's usually not the case.
Yeah. Where do you all do you have you predicted who do you still have front runners, people who you think? I think I've sort of planted my flag with Charlie. You think Charlie's in the best position?
What do you think, Liana?
For me, it's Kenzie. But I think that part of that is also based on just her story continuously getting a lot of story, especially in some areas where she could have easily been edited out of the story. That was something like Michelle Fitzgerald's win also stood out to me for those reasons, where Kenzie, yes, is very fun, but you also have so many other dynamic personalities that it would be, you could potentially swap out some of those confessionals. So for me, I think it's Kenzie.
You think she's getting a bit of a hero edit, featured in a lot of featuring. Yeah,
exactly. A lot of featuring and a lot of hearing her when maybe she's not necessarily the one driving votes.
And it's tough because then you're also wondering how much is the tail wagging the dog, and it's like, well, it's because her tribe went to tribal council like 3 out of 4 times, or basically 4 out of 5 times in the pre-merge, so we're gonna hear a lot from her. I do think that Maria is probably who I would go with. I do think that Kenzie and Charlie are probably my top 2, but I'll be a bit contrarian and just throw one in for the hell of it, because I do think that, is Maria under-edited AF? Yes, but I do think there are bits and pieces there. There's even stuff like you mentioned, Liana, about kind of like needless moments in retrospect. Remember that one time that she like biffed the reward challenge for her tribe and like had this whole segment about how she's been seeking validation and her family, immigrating from Lebanon to America, and how she wants to do this on behalf of all those people. And then on top of this, I do feel like this could be sort of like a soaring to stardom that Maria needs, especially because if Q's going to take the credit for it, fantastic. All on you, dude. Build even more smoke onto yourself while Maria can sit back and then go to Final Tribal Council and be like, yeah, I was the one that actually put the votes together there. So I could see a path for her. Would it be a little underwhelming, to Justin's point, considering how we really haven't seen a lot of her? Yes, but I do think, despite this cast being so wackadoo, I do think it is one of the more normal cast members in a Charlie, a Kenzie, or Maria that will probably take it all in the end, just because, again, the other options just seem absolutely unattainable.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like... I wouldn't think Ben will be able to float much longer without really doing anything. I mean, like, without being very active. It's weird that he has taken on, like, he almost has taken on sort of a Master Splinter role, you know what I mean? Where it's like, he's there and he's like, that's interesting. Let's talk about that. It's like, no, he's going to vote for this guy. I know he's going to get this guy off the show. I thought for sure when Maria had that scene, I thought for sure that was her obit scene. Anytime you see the family photos pop up, my alarm bells go off. I tell Sydney, like, if I'm on Survivor and I start talking about my family history, I stop. I'm not. No. I know.
Don't give them that.
No. I know what you all will do. If I start giving you a compelling story, absolutely no way. Especially when it's somebody who you haven't heard from. And then all of a sudden it's like, when I grew up in Alabama, it's like, bye, you're done. It's a last minute trying to get me to care about you before you're axed.
I like that. It's just the best way to play is to not play at all. Like, I'm not even going to give you the ingredients because I know the dish you'll make.
can't make a satisfying episode of me getting voted out if I don't go to confessionals ever. I'm just there.
Refuse to go on walks. Yeah. No, I think Charlie would be my second choice because for similar reasons that he's gotten a consistent, coherent narrative throughout the season. And I think between him and Maria, at least, especially early, the editors would default to Charlie's opinion between the two of them. And so that makes me feel like, okay, there's some investment that we need to know about Charlie. Like, why do we need to know about Charlie's thoughts? And I think that that's because he could also be a winner contender. He would be my second choice after Kenzie, and I would put him above Maria for those reasons. But they do seem to be pretty much in lockstep throughout the whole thing, which makes me wonder if, we talk all this thought about turning on your allies. Like, it will one of them turn on one another at maybe the appropriate time, and then that gives, Charlie, let's say, the win in the end.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about the doomsday scenario of Q, Venus, Liz final three, I think the exact opposite is a Kenzie, Charlie, Maria final three, where similarly that can be as up in the air, if not more, but I think it's a bit oppositional from like a perception perspective. Now, granted, maybe, those three would earn a lot of ire from the jury at the end, but definitely I think it still would be a case where I'm not sure who gets votes there, who gets credited.
I think you'd be hard pressed to see. I would be hard pressed to see all three of those just because they would be the most satisfying to have there, I think. And I think it's unlikely that everyone else does not realize that about at least one of them, if not two, that any one of those three beats any of the remaining ones. And when you've got 5 people remaining, or 4 now, I guess at the next vote, it'd be interesting to see if those 4 are like, hey, we're on the B team. We should. I'm realizing now we should work together to get out the jocks.
Yep. You're not wrong.
All right. Well, speaking of jocks, let's talk about Tiffany here. I mean, Tiffany was very good in these challenges, and she nearly won were it not for Charlie's ape-like grip strength, apparently.
Yeah.
But let's see, Liana, how good of a grip you and I had of Tiffany. Of course, in the preseason, you and I wrote up how we thought that she would do. Tiffany, a big character in my interview with her. How did you think Tiff was going to play out?
Yes. So you may remember I was very, 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 very high on Tiffany, and that is reflected in my prediction. I had predicted her to be the winner of the season. So she was my preseason winner pick. It was between her and Kenzie. Ultimately went with Tiffany here. So I said that Tiffany, along with Jess and Kenzie, create the Palm Fron Hat Gang, PFH gang, what up? And they ride their success all the way to the final 5. While Tiffany is devastated to lose her 2 closest allies back to back, Jess at final 5 and Kenzie in fire making, it turns out to be a blessing because they both advocate for her in the jury. Tiffany sweeps the jury votes, getting 7 of the possible 8 because of her charm. Several of the possible 8 votes. Because of her charm and sparkling personality. I also said that Tiffany would win 3 individual immunity challenges and give us several new reaction gifts at Tribal Council, because I believe she said she was very expressive. Her allies were, of course, Kenzie and Jess, and her enemy was Tevin. And if you remember this, Tevin did a casting of Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, yes,
like they redid Beauty and the Beast. So part of the reason why the enemy was because he casted her as Gaston, and she was not happy about it.
All right, and did we say that Q was also unhappy that he was not cast as Gaston?
It was Charlie who was upset about being cast as.
I think he was
Lumiere, I think
maybe, or like this Chip.
He's
Chip,
Lumiere.
it was either
he has a
Chip or Lumiere. Yeah. So, but he was upset at Tevin. That's why I didn't vote for Tevin.
Maria and Charlie are kind of giving me Mrs. Potts and Chip.
Right? They are.
All right, well, maybe we need to do this exercise towards the end of the season.
Tiffany did have one more great reaction, though. Her face when she told Liz that she didn't eat the burger was really good. It was really good. We shared that around in our Slack. It's just a classic reaction.
She is super good. And I talked about the reactions as well, because, I believe she told me out there that she can't control her face. And that showed as well. I think she was a fantastic go-to person for reactions amongst all the wackiness around her, and that included on her face as well. I love
to see her back. She's one I'd love to get back. I think she's a really strong player who made a really bad mistake, but a really strong player who should get another bite at the apple, I think.
I completely agree. I love Tiffany so much. She's a great character. Again, a bit underrated, I think, compared to all the wackadoos around her. But
I think she had a harder time with the wackadoo. I feel like, I feel like if Tiffany had been in a game where people were playing a little bit more with their heads, I think she actually would have fared better. I just don't think she adapted to how. I think she wanted more control than this season is willing to offer anybody, and I think that is maybe what ended up doing her in addition to obviously. Going home with an idol in her pocket. I mean,
well, my prediction was not as lofty as Liana. I did not have her facing the jury, but I did have her making the jury. I also said, true to her telling me she can't control her facial expressions, she'll be the reaction queen of the season. But while she can't control her face, she can control everything else. She remains in a rock-solid trio with Q and Kenzie through the pre-merge, cemented by the fact that she finds the first idol in the game. She'll eagerly sign up to go on a journey where her risk-taking life credo has her losing her vote. As the merge hits, she'll be seen as a chief target. The others clock her as a power player with sweet talking skills and physical strength to boot. After turning on Q in the split tribal council, it becomes a battle of Yanu versus Siga, with Nami in the middle. Though Tiffany and Kenzie think they have Nami votes to get rid of Maria, to the point where Tiff doesn't play her idol, it proves to be a massive error. Tiffany gets blindsided with her idol in her pocket. The fan base then talks about if Tiffany is a name cursed to be the first juror on Survivor. Oh yeah, because we had Tiffany from Survivor 41, I think, also be the first juror. And her closest ally was Kenzie, and her enemy was Maria.
Okay, well, that was weirdly accurate. First idol, didn't play idol.
To be fair, I was out there and did see her reading the Beware Advantage when I visited her camp. So it was a little bit of a finger on the scale. I kind of assumed that she had found the idol.
Yeah.
But Justin, we're going to put the ball in your court here.
Okay.
You're the Q. You're the judge, jury, and executioner with a Q. Who do you think had the more odds-on prediction preseason about how Tiffany would ultimately do?
Unfortunately, Mike, as much as I prefer Liana, I am in this case going to have to give it to you. I do think that you were a little more on point.
Yeah, not wrong. Okay, well, Mike may have won the prediction, but can he win the game that we're going to play today to close things out here for the B&B? So we, obviously, inspired by Applebee's, very crucial to this episode, we asked our listeners to write in and compare Survivor players from this season to casual dining restaurants. So I will give an example of how this game is going to work. It is up to the two of you to try to predict what the audience said. Based on your answer, you'll accumulate a certain number of points, essentially just based on the percentage, and we'll tally everything up at the end to see who has their finger on the pulse.
Okay.
See, here's the thing. I did suggest this game. I feel like I'm a gladiator going up against a lion right now. I choose the bear because, listen, for those that don't know, on one of Justin's podcasts, My Brother and Me, he does Munch Squad, which is a segment that talks about all the latest and greatest news from fast casual dining. I mean, I'm going up against a man who I think has, out of anyone in this country, his best finger on the pulse to what these restaurants are.
I also think I'm going to get way too in my head about all the potential ramifications for saying anyone is a restaurant. But I'm ready to give it a shot.
Look, there's no criteria, no right, no wrong answer. So essentially
there's a right and wrong. I mean, we all can agree.
Well, let's see if you agree. Well, I'll give an example. So I did ask the question, which Survivor 46 player is most like Applebee's? As you can imagine, Liz was the overwhelming answer. She received 61.6%
Only
of the
61?
vote. And then it was pretty much split throughout. So, okay, so let's say, for example, you were answering. So you'll both get an opportunity to answer for both questions, for all the questions. So, for example, let's say Mike says Liz for Applebee's. He would get 61 points because she got 61% of the vote.
Oh, okay.
Justin, let's say you say David Jelinski, who is the second place finisher. He got, he got 7% of the vote, so you would get 7.
He got several percent of the vote.
Several percent of the. I
guess Jelinski would be like, I don't know, the target demo, because Applebee's does feel like that place you go to after a theater show, like still kind of caked with makeup.
Yeah, 100%. It has huge, like everybody singing songs from the show energy, and like
Jelinsky.
Yes.
I mean, Tevin is more so the theater person, but Jelinsky is the youngest. He's 21. He has done shows before, so it does feel like it kind of has his energy.
Yeah.
Also, just a general statement. Look, we couldn't include every restaurant. Okay, so there's no Chili's, there's no TGI Fridays, but maybe next year if CBS ever decides to partner with a different restaurant.
Did you all see Chili's trying to slide into Liz's mentions, being like, "Hey, you were deprived of that sweet Applebee's. How about you lose the zero and get with the hero?"
That's intense.
Let me see if I can find this while we talk.
Wild. Okay, I did not expect that. I don't think she would switch brand loyalty though, right? I feel like she's really into the Applebee's.
Well, then Applebee's did slide in and was like, no. But please, we're not losing one of our few loyal customers to this.
Okay. Well, while Mike is following that train of thought, let's start with our first question. Justin, I'll give you the opportunity to answer first. Okay. This first one is, which Survivor 46 player is most like Olive Garden?
Most like Olive Garden.
Yes.
I'm gonna say Ben, because when you're there, you're family. Ben seems to have a real open heart for everybody. And I feel like a lot of generosity there to sort of stand in for the breadsticks. I think it would probably be the only other one I would I can't change. You know what? I'm gonna stick with
Sure. If you want.
I'm gonna stick with Ben. I'm gonna stick with Ben.
All right. Mike, what about you?
Ben is a good one. I would say, like, okay, who's the most Italian? But let's be honest, Olive Garden is not Italian food.
That's the other thing that was tripping me up is I don't know anybody's ethnicity, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes by saying they seem a lot like the Olive Garden.
So I do feel I do feel like I'm going with Justin's attitude here of like, when you're here, your family. I think I'm going to go with Tim. Because I think Tim was trying to pump this whole like Sega cohesion thing. He is a dad and was probably the most this season that was talking about his family. I also feel like
I'm switching. Okay, I'm switching to Maria. She's the season's most motherly. And she's a parenting coach, so family is right there in it. It's got to be Maria. I'm switching.
All right.
Okay, so we have Mike, Ben, Justin, Maria. Justin, you named 2 of the top 3. Ben was the 3rd place finisher. Maria, the number 1 place finisher.
Woo!
With
audible
0.6% of the vote. Mike, unfortunately for you, Tim only got 3.5%. I don't know where he finished, but
I unfortunately don't know how many people who filled out the survey remembered Tim. So yeah, a bit of a shot in the dark there.
Yeah.
Well, no, the shot in the dark, you at least have a 1 in 6 chance of getting it.
Yeah, better than this. You only got 3.5%. Charlie was the other person in the top 3. I think the Charlie Maria connection somehow could have been.
If Charlie greeted you and helped you to your table at Olive Garden, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, 100%. That's 100% his energy." Yeah, that's great.
I did find something.
Okay.
So this was in response to Liz's tweet. So Liz had, tweeted a picture of herself. You already should have known I love burgers with a freaking passion, as she had a burger headband on her Redmond photo. Chili's Grill and Bar replies, Liz, we have a mushroom Swiss burger too. And TBH, it's better. We'd love to send you a gift from us so you and your daughter can start a new tradition. Wink face.
Whoa.
That's a lot.
And then honestly, this is iconic. Chili's, please DM us so we can make this happen. Liz, still waiting.
They took time out of Star Wars Day to nag Liz. Still waiting.
Not the follow-up. Oh my
God,
that's
you look
almost
desperate
worse.
on Maine, your Chili's.
Hey Liz, just circling back.
Your Chili's. Do something else.
Oh my God. Did Liz just cue Chili's? Was she just like, listen, I understand you're desperate and you want me. I'm not going to let that happen. I'm so sorry.
Left on red. Oh, that's so funny. Not Chili's being desperate.
Crap.
I can't believe it. Okay, well, maybe it's a good thing we didn't do Chili's. All right. Let's go to our next question. So, Mike, you're going to kick things off. You get the answer first. Red Lobster is your restaurant.
Ooh, okay. So I'm thinking primarily about someone that brought in seafood here.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously that's the focus of Red Lobster besides those delicious Cheddar Bay biscuits. But Cheddar Bay biscuits also reminds me of like something Southern too. So I'm just, my gut is saying Hunter. I'm going to go with
Okay.
Hunter here for Red Lobster.
All right,
Hunter's
Mike.
a really good pick.
Said Hunter. Justin, how are you feeling?
Red Lobster. Red Lobster.
What is the general reaction when people say, "Oh, do you want to go to Red Lobster tonight?"
Red Lobster.
You know, I can't even justify this one, but I'm going to say Charlie. I don't know why. There's just something about.
Picture him as a server.
I can just picture him at all anywhere in the Darden family of products. I can see Charlie slotting in. Maybe we can get him to upper management in a few years, but right now he's happy where he's at.
Honestly, I can't even hate the strategy because he was 4th overall with 8.7% of the vote. And he also beat Hunter. So more people just agree with your general vibe than Hunter. Now, Hunter was right below him. So Charlie got 8%, Charlie with 7%. So they were all sort of right there. The top #1 vote getter was Tevin. And I think because of when he did the fish thing with his talking about his dad.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But that was a surprise to me until I was like, oh, yeah. I remembered that. Kenzie and Q were the top 3 actually. With
because
Tevin.
of red hair?
Maybe it could have been red hair, sunburn. I think
Kenzie,
she got a sunburn.
where Kenzie has like tattoos, I don't necessarily think of that. Like, I don't think Edge when I think Red Lobster, but I don't know. Maybe I should update. Maybe there's a whole new look there. I don't know.
Yeah, edgy.
Yeah, edgy.
Edgy. Okay.
I don't even think. I guess tattoos aren't edgy anywhere either, so I don't really know. I have 2. I have 3, so you know they're not.
Well, Mike has a Survivor one, so they're definitely not edgy.
Oh, yeah. I officially killed any coolness that's associated with tattoos.
Okay, Justin, we're going to go back to you for the first answer for Outback Steakhouse.
Ooh, that's former Survivor sponsor.
That's 100% Hunter. Hunter is a hugely Outback. He's Outback coded. It's Hunter with a bullet. It's got to be Hunter.
Okay. Mike, what about you?
See, I'm going to disagree. Outback Steakhouse, this is the rare advantage I have as someone who worked in Outback Steakhouse. No rules.
No rules.
Just right.
No rules. I didn't think about that.
It's the man that's rewriting the book of Survivor, as Justin is saying. I'm going with Q.
Of course it's Q. He deserves it, Liana. He deserves it, and he should keep it. And he should have it, and he deserves it.
Well, I'll tell you, you had the #1 and #2 answers.
Thank God. Thank God. Okay.
Justin, this may come as a surprise to you, but you got 31.7% of the vote, whereas Mike only got 11.8.
Wow.
So 3 times the number of people agreed with your logic of Hunter over.
That makes me feel a little bit. Yeah, 100%. I mean, he feels like the Outback. If he came at you with an Aussie accent, you would not be thrown. Like, it seems like his energy.
You believe it. Mike, let's go back to you. IHOP is your restaurant.
Okay. Do I go for the joke answer or do I not? I'm so in the hole right now. I kind of got to make this Hail Mary right now. Listen, the Survivor fan base, I love you dearly. We all have a little troll inside of us. And I can't help but give IHOP to the person who, for some godforsaken reason, does not know how to jump, and say Mariah.
All right, Mike, locking in Mariah. Justin, what do you want to go with?
This is tough. I'm thinking of like the energy of an IHOP. You know, I'm going to go with Soda. I think Soda, it's just like a little bit more upbeat, a little bit like it's not too stressful. I don't know. I like Soda for IHOP.
Again, the number 1 and 2 answers off the board, but this time it's flipped. Mike, you did have the number 1 answer. 13% of people went with the joke of IHOP, but 10% went with soda. Also coming in the second place position, the other people were Charlie and Jelinski, actually, that had top 3 and 4. That one makes less sense to me. I'm not going to lie with Jelinski. Charlie, obviously, server at IHOP. We all know. But
Jelinski has like the body that resembles a stack of pancakes.
I guess.
I think I had my doubts about this game when y'all first told me. It's very strange that we as a people are able to look at a human being and a fast casual restaurant and be like, oh, you're a Chili's. I know your type. You're a Chili's person. It's very, that guy, total Panera. And like at least 20% of the people in the room are like, yep, total Panera.
You could go around to 5 people and at least one of them would say, we're on the same page right now.
Yeah, 100%. They're a total Panera. Oh, Hunter? Yeah, a third of us agree. He's just like the restaurant Outback. Should that be on Tinder? Like, what fast casual restaurant are you?
This should be the new bear question. Yeah, this should be like, what fast casual restaurant are you?
But it works. It works so well.
You can't do it for yourself, I think, because like you can't be that self-deprecating. It has to be somebody else like reading you and just tearing you down to brass tacks.
Well, I think it's also then people would just go with Occam's razor, which is like, well, I eat a lot of Sonic, so I guess I'm
right.
Sonic.
Exactly.
So you need other people to make that judgment about you.
Yes, exactly. No one has this level of insight.
Yeah. Okay, let's stay in the breakfast arena, but move on to a different restaurant. That's right. It's Waffle House. Who is the most like Waffle House? Justin, we'll go to you first for your answer.
The most like Waffle House is... Oh, man. I'm going to say... you know what? For this one is Kinsey. I'll give Kinsey.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So since Justin gave his answer, I'll be cards up here. I'm between 2. I'm between Q and Liz. Liz, I think, has sort of like that like overwhelmed Waffle House at 3 a.m. attitude with the way she dug
That's a good call. Yeah, for sure.
Like, I'm had it with you right now. What y'all doing? Stay off the tables.
You can hear her say like, I told you to drag it through the garden. Now cook it again, double time.
But Q does waffle. And also has the energy of said aforementioned Waffle House at 3 a.m. So I'm going to get bit by this again, and I'll keep going with Q.
This time, it served you well.
Waffle House is pretty dead on.
25% of the respondents of the survey said Q. Unfortunately, Justin... It was a bit of a drop to get to Kenzie. Only 3.2% of people said Kenzie. Jelinski actually was the second answer. Again, I think that duo of the two of them just very chaotic. I guess giving Waffle House energy. I
mean, Jelinski is still, I think, living up to what I declared a couple of weeks ago, that he may be the most iconic first boot of all time, considering that he has been, the runner-up in quite a few of these restaurant comparisons.
They're going to have him back. He has to come back. If someone can make that level of impact, if one episode, I mean, to the extent where like this one human being, one episode of Survivor made it so that several weeks later, my wife and I still say at several o'clock, we got to get the kids headed to bed.
I know. All right. Well, let's move on to Buffalo Wild Wings. Mike, who do you want to answer?
For B-dubs. Okay. So, like, this is one of those, like we were talking about, where you self-assign the restaurant, where it's more so from Justin's perspective with, like, Hunter and Outback of who do you most see there? I kind of feel like Ben. I just feel like Ben has that thing of, like, we're going to go back, we're going to crush a few dozen wings, dry rub, no sauce, we're going to rock it, bro. And so I just feel like Ben has that B-dubs motto to him.
Big B-dubs energy. What do you think, Justin?
I am really torn here because, like, Ben definitely has B-dubs energy, I feel like Jelinski is at VW3's right now as we're recording this. So I'm going to go with Jelinski.
Okay, Jelinski was the better answer, 10% compared to 6%. The top 2 vote getters, though, were Q. I think the wild part probably had to play a role with that, as well as Tim. I was surprised to see Tim get votes here, but then I remembered how wild his strategy was of just being like, yeah, I'm in the 6, but we have to vote out someone from the 6.
Yeah,
Like,
he had that six piece and he was eating them up.
Yeah, which is, again, the fact that the 6 alliance is down to 2 people, right?
I mean, do we
Maria
count
and
Charlie?
No.
Was it ever an alliance to begin with? I mean, one must ask.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they only voted against each other since the alliance has been founded.
Quite an alliance.
Oh my gosh, that is correct. Okay. We've got 4 questions left. It is actually very close. A score update. Yes. It's 80 points to Justin and 67 to Mike, which is still for this game within shot. Let's go with Cheesecake Factory. Justin, who would you say for the Cheesecake Factory?
Cheesecake Factory is, I'm spiraling a little bit at this point. You know what? Cheesecake Factory is kind of everything. You know what? I might actually say that this one is closer to Kinsey because I feel like a Cheesecake Factory kind of needs to be like everything to everyone. It's got such a gigantic menu. Everybody can eat there. And I feel like Kinsey would spend a lot of time trying to stay on everybody's good side for so long. I would say Kinsey.
All right. And Mike?
For some reason, I'm getting it's tough for me to get a vibe on Cheesecake Factory just because, to Justin's point, it's almost like
by definition,
decision paralysis where there's too many options. So to that point, I will go with Liz, even though she probably can't eat at least 85% of what's on that menu.
Okay, let me find Liz, which is maybe not a good indication for you. Yeah, 2.3% of the vote, whereas the top vote getter was Kenzie. So congratulations, Justin. That gives you the points there. Let's go to Cracker Barrel.
I take the ball that has Hunter's beautiful bearded face on it. I run it to the hoop. I dunk it in voraciously, tongue sticking out.
All right, we got Hunter for Mike. Justin, who do you want to go with?
Hunter is a really good pick. Oh, man, just to try to have something different. I got to think of something different. You know what? Man, no. I'm scrolling through. No.
Swipe right.
No, none of these people are Cracker Barrel. You know who I'm going to go with? I'm going to go with Banu because it's just sad. It's just sad. It's sad to be at Cracker Barrel. It's sad to be Banu. I think it's both kind of sad. He had a sad season. It bummed me out, bummed everybody out. Huge bummer, Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, you lose the peg game and you're like, God, why did you do this to me?
Why? Why did you bring these sawmill grits?
Yeah, unfortunately, Justin, you're in a bad position because Hunter got 38% of the vote, and it was just sort of randomly spread between everybody else.
It's unquestionable.
Yeah, 5% for Banu there. So that's a tough one. Justin, we're gonna go back to you, Margaritaville.
Oh, you picked the restaurant for this guy.
Oh, I mean, this has got to be Ben. This has got to be Ben.
Music.
For me, Ben. Music, the easygoing, like I feel like it's Ben.
Yeah, Mike. So who is the second
place
finisher? Because look, it was Ben.
I gotta think about like who has that sort of like islandy vibes. And I mean, Tevin was always wearing those Hawaiian shirts and having that good time. So even though he's a bit more vibrant than maybe the attitude that Mr. Buffett usually gives out with his music, I guess I'll go Tevin here.
Tevin was the 4th place finisher here. Ben, obviously number 1, 30% of the vote. Then actually Kenzie with 15 and Venus with 7.7% of the vote.
Several, please.
Several points several. Sorry. All right, last question. Chuck E. Cheese. Mike, who is most like Chuck E. Cheese?
Oh, man.
Chuck E. Cheese's, I think, because there's an apostrophe S.
Chuck E. Cheese. Who
Jesus.
most represents the wildness of Charles Entertainment Cheese?
Mhm.
I think it's got to be the guy who is not only the youngest, but also brought so many shenanigans out and whose game was the quality of the baked over several times pizza that is made at that particular facility. I gotta loop back to the man that's been a part of this all and go with Jelinski.
Wow.
Okay.
I feel like Charlie would have the most fun at Chuck E. Cheese. He kind of, yeah. I mean, God, no, it's Banu. No, wait, not Banu. No, sorry, Charlie. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Charlie.
All right. So, Mike, with 21.7% of the vote,
Huge.
Jelinski. Charlie was 13% of the vote. Banu was actually the number one answer. Justin.
No kidding?
Really gone with
Damn
your
it.
bet. Yeah,
Ah.
22% of the vote.
It's
But I
so
will
dead
say-
on. I should have trusted my gut.
But you know what? It actually didn't matter. You would have won either way. You finished with, it was a close game, 140 points to Mike's 137. So congratulations.
that's a
Oh,
great
wow, by
game.
3 points.
It's
It
a
was
fun
very
game. Y'all
close.
should play that every season, honestly. It's a humdinger.
Yeah, we do it. We've done it with like Marvel characters in the past. We did it with Peanuts
Mhm.
characters, but I think this was the perfect
just
amalgamation of
restaurants.
factors.
It's great.
Like restaurants.
Oh my God. Well, Justin, you served us up a delight of a podcast. Last thing we do with each and every podcast here on the B&B is throw it to our guests to plug a charity or cause that is important to them. What would you like to plug this week?
I'd like to plug the Huntington Children's Museum. It's here in my home city of Huntington, West Virginia. We've been trying to get it off the ground for several years now. We finally have a location, and repairs are happening at the building, and hoping to get it open this summer, actually. That's hcmkids.org. If you want to throw them a few bucks or just check it out, go for it.
All right. Sounds awesome. Well, we had an amazing time welcoming you back. I was so excited when
Such a
you reached out
treat.
asking to come on. I mean, absolutely a bigger treat than a full
Don't make
5-course
me
meal
ask next time, please. It's humiliating.
No, I was waiting. I didn't know if you, because you are obviously a very busy manager. About
You
to get
saw what
into
you
it.
didn't want me on before now, Mike, and I had to beg you to come back on your podcast.
That's not the case. That
Wow,
would be
Mike.
Yes,
Wow.
well. There would be a
Wow.
B&B podcast without some
Wonder.
good old fashioned character assassination. But
Or
regardless,
without, I think it's very fitting of the season that it all collapses here in the final couple
Exactly.
minutes. The whole thing goes to pot.
it wouldn't be a Survivor 46 podcast if that wasn't the case. Well, Justin, your menu is full. I think with all the podcasts that you get to do each and every week. Anything in particular you want to plug for the listeners out there?
We are going to be on the road. What day will this go live?
Today, actually, Monday.
Today, Monday. So we're going to be May 15th. We're going to be in Tacoma, Washington with my brother, me, and May 16th, Tacoma, Washington with the Adventure Zone. Those are two of my podcasts. So if you can get out to those shows, bit.ly/McElroy, McElroy tours is where you can get tickets.
Liana, what would you like to plug?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Liana RHAP. Mass Singer is also just a disaster. So if you want to hear Puya and I talk about sort of the Mass Singer, you can listen to that podcast as well.
You can follow me at a Mike Bloom type. As mentioned before, I got to talk with Tiffany. I found out a bunch of great behind the scenes stuff, including her thinking as to why she didn't play her idol, her reaction to the reward picks, and much more. Also spoke with the team that was eliminated from The Amazing Race, which if you followed The Amazing Race also had quite a controversial finish. So you certainly want to find out everything that happened there. The Circle finishes this week. I'm covering that as well with Taryn and Puya. And lastly, I know that neither Liana or I will be in Chicago for the live event this week, but I hope everyone who does has a great time. Bring some of that B&B chaotic energy. You have a plethora of restaurants to eat out at, in which case you can and vibe with the contestants that they're most comparable to. I guess you could feel Tim in that Buffalo Wild Wings as an example. But next week, Liana and I will be back talking about the next episode of Survivor 46, whatever it has to offer. And we'll actually be having another New Era alumni on. Jamie Lynn Ruiz from Survivor 44 will be coming on. She had brandished a fake idol, but it will be a real podcast as we'll break down the anti-penultimate episode of Survivor 46 and see whatever the hell happens next with this cast. So Justin, this was such a delight. Thank you so much. Liana, great work as per usual, especially with the game. Special thanks to the entire team behind the scenes at RHAP for putting this podcast together, and for Will from America for his fantastic theme song. Liana and I will be back next week with Jamie Lynn Ruiz to break down episode 11 of Survivor 46. Until then, we'll check you out at your next stay.